A lot of our social activities are built around alcohol, but if you really think it's the people that you're there for. You know, if you removed all of the people and you were left with just the alcohol, it's not that great. And my whole thing is that two things that held me back from drinking the most were nothing's going to be fun anymore. How am I going to have fun without alcohol? And how am I going to deal with my stress? How am I going to deal with my anxiety of being a business owner and everything else, you know? And that's just the two biggest lies that there are. If it requires alcohol in order for it to be fun, then in my view, it was never fun to begin with. And it might just be something you got to deal with and get through.
Hello and welcome to The Sober Social, a podcast from the Hoffa Foundation and a show about how you can live your best life sober. I'm your host Adam Stoltz, a video producer here to help tell the stories that can change lives. I'm joined today by my co-host for this adventure and the man you should reach out to if you're in need of help or have feedback about this show, co-founder of the Hoffa Foundation, Mr. Tom Herb. Tom, say hello and tell all of our listeners how they can get a hold of you and the Hoffa Foundation if they need support and would like to start a conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, Tom Herb here. And so Hoffa stands for Healing, Opportunity, Free from Addiction. And throughout this podcast, even post this podcast, if you ever need to reach out, certainly come to us. We've got a brand new website just launched. It's hoffafoundation.org. So back to you, Adam.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Tom. If you like what you see in here today, please be sure to subscribe, like, share, leave a 5-star rating, and of course, share with loved ones, elected officials in your area. You can also donate to Hoffa's cause right on their homepage, as Tom mentioned, at hoffafoundation.org, and they can't thank you enough in advance for your support. Our guest today is the owner of Rising Tide Academy, Mike Stewart. Mike, hey, thanks a lot for being here, man.
Appreciate the opportunity big time, guys. Thank you so much.
Of course, Mike. Well, hey, for those that may not be familiar with Rising Tide Academy, can you just tell us real quick, what is Rising Tide?
Yeah, so we are a mixed martial arts academy. We teach Gracie Jujitsu, Muay Thai, MMA, and my brother and I started this thing back in like late 2009, early 2010. We have 2 locations. We have one in Columbia, Maryland, and one in Finksburg, Maryland, and we're opening up a third very soon in Eldersburg. And we just have an incredible team of instructors, and that's what makes it all possible.
Awesome. I will tell you, man, you know, I couldn't be happier right now. When I reached out to you several weeks ago, we talked a while back about this podcast, but really pinned down the date today to get on this thing. I mean, this is episode number 3 for us. And we had all these different thoughts of people to be on. And I'm thinking, man, you know, Mike, obviously, first and foremost, good friends with my younger brother, Jimmy, that passed away. And that's how Hoffa was born. You know, obviously very influential in the community. You make impact at all ages, man. The youth, the adults, the community, big community person. And, you know, obviously your message out there is very impactful. And the things that you do, you don't just talk the talk. I see you out there walking the walk with everything that you do. And I thought that, you know, man, let's get Mike on this podcast with us because, you know, your message to the folks out there listening to this podcast, I believe will really resonate, especially around not only what we deal with every day in the community out there, impacting others out there, ultimately to save lives. You know what's going on out there with things on the rise. And of course, you know, people falling back into some of those deep, dark places and perhaps even how to get people out of those deep, dark places. So I thought, man, just kind of open this thing up with you and for the folks out there listening to get to know you better. Obviously, you know, we grew up in the same community. We know a lot of the same people. I'm sure we did a lot of the same things. And some of those things that we used to do, I'm sure we left them in the past, right? And we're moving forward. And here we are, man. So I would love for you to share, just kind of take the audience through, you know, Mike back in the day. And, you know, I'm sure having a good time, but obviously we all make mistakes along the way. And maybe someone listening, you know, can prevent themselves from making that mistake. It's a choice, right, in the end, and you know, get us to where we understand, Mike, where you are now and where you're going, man, overall. So take us back into the old days, Mike.
Yeah, wow. So, man, I'll omit certain things because they're embarrassing and probably not appropriate for the podcast. But yeah, man, I mean, I used to be a wild boy. And, you know, I had a fun relationship with alcohol always. You know, it never really made me, it wasn't really a problem until it was. You know, it was something I felt like I could always manage until I couldn't. And that's the nature of alcohol. It's very insidious. And I had my first drink when I was like 12 or 13. And I mean, every weekend, since then, I felt like I was drinking. And when I first opened the school, I really did chill out with it. You know, like I said, back in 2010, when we opened up, I had let my life up to that point. Like I didn't train or do any martial arts at all for like 2 years. And during that period, I partied hard, man, and was drinking and drugging and you know, I played in the band, which I saw you in the crowd a couple times there, Tom, and Jimmy was there like every damn show. And we would just have, I mean, a lot of fun. And it was always surrounded by a lot of drug and alcohol use and abuse. And, you know, I never got too hard into drugs. But I've seen, you know, of course, firsthand the devastating impact it's had, especially like on our community. But the alcohol was really the thing for me. It's just so accessible, and it's so woven into the fabric of our society. It's the only real drug where like you can be a mess and people kind of accept it. I don't think they know just how bad you can be hurting and masking certain things. So when I first started training again, I really didn't drink at all. I was cutting a lot of weight. I was fighting and competing a lot. So drinking, I couldn't really afford. Then I got successful. And it's like, I have a great team. Like, I don't really even have to go to work tonight if I don't want to. So because of that extra freedom, I kind of got freedom early on in life, and I abused it. And I had lack of accountability. Thankfully, you know, my wife kind of kept me in line, and some of my best friends were noticing me slipping, you know what I mean? And kind of not being as sharp as I could be. And I'm thankful for that. And some of my students and stuff noticed too. And, you know, I guess it's been like 2.5 years ago, I just decided to abstain from drinking altogether. And things have been considerably better since then.
Well, yeah. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just saying, Mike, you said it wasn't a problem until it was. What was that light bulb moment, man? What was that moment where you're like, oh crap, this is a problem?
Yeah. So it was a couple things, you know, I kind of knew, like the voice in my head was telling me like, you probably should relax, but there was one particular night where I was drinking heavily. I got dropped off at my house, and that's the last thing I remember. I remember walking up to my house, and then the next thing I remember, I wake up, my face is all smashed, there's blood everywhere. I had a knee injury from training that was like 100% healed, and I think I don't even know what happened, to be honest with you. It's pretty embarrassing if I'm being real. And I guess my legs gave out from under me. I smashed my face on the cement. I knocked myself unconscious. I'm lucky I didn't like hurt myself worse and crack my skull, break my nose or my teeth or something. I split my face open. And the most embarrassing part of that whole story is that the next day was my son's very first gymnastics meet, and I almost missed it. And then I'm hobbling around his meet. I look like I got my ass kicked in a fight because like my face was just a damn mess, and I'm like limping and just feeling the disappointment from my family and just being foggy and hungover at a very, very important event for one of my kids that they worked really hard for. And then, you know, the realization that I was probably in that foggy state at many of their sporting events, many of their important moments. It was, it kind of knocked some sense into me, dude. And I decided at that point, like, things have got to change. If this isn't the bottom, if this isn't as bad as things are going to get, what does rock bottom look like? Does it, you know, like if this isn't as bad as it gets, well, let's not see what worse looks like.
Yeah. And, you know, Mike, you and I spoke, I think our last conversation, and something that really stood out to me the most was, you know, the fact that everything, you know, almost everything we do every single day, you know, that message, advertising, different moments, activities, events, you know, that alcohol kind of snakes its way all the way through and just constantly weaves around, and to the point where, you know, you're alcohol free. It is certainly one day at a time, but you got that in your face, all the time as well. And it's a constant battle. And I just, speak to me more about that, man. Talk to Adam and I about, your feelings around that, because you shared some really good stuff that I thought would really help out the audience, when you're faced with that every day, right? How to push through it, because it's not going away.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because if people have other drug problems, they typically do them in private. You don't see heroin dens. You don't see cocaine lounges. You don't even see like coffee bars where they smoke weed like in other parts of the world. But I mean, I could go to 10 places within a 5-minute drive of my house and get completely obliterated. No one would blink an eye. So it's the type of thing where it's so accessible and it's just so normal. It's so normalized. I mean, games, birthday parties, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, our society is, a lot of our social activities are built around alcohol. But if you really think it's the people that you're there for. If you removed all of the people and you were left with just the alcohol, it's not that great. And my whole thing is that two things that held me back from drinking the most were, nothing's going to be fun anymore. How am I going to have fun without alcohol? And how am I going to deal with my stress? How am I going to deal with my anxiety of being a business owner and everything else, And that's just the two biggest lies that there are. If it requires alcohol in order for it to be fun, then in my view, it was never fun to begin with. And it might just be something you got to deal with and get through. But if the idea of going to a place where it's so loud and you can barely hear anything and there's drunk people bumping into you, the only thing that makes that tolerable is being drunk. It's not fun. For me, some people might think that's fun sober, but for me, that's the prospect of that is just annoying, especially at our age. And well, there's actually a lot of data suggesting that alcohol increases your stress and your anxiety. Especially when we're hungover, we've all felt that. And, that was the biggest lie I told myself is, well, I deserve this drink because I had a rough day. And I'm using it to blow off steam or to relieve my stress, when in reality you're doing the opposite. You're increasing all of those things. So I would say to people that if it requires alcohol to be fun, question if it's fun to begin with. Do things that are actually fun. You don't need to drink to do certain things to enhance the experience, because they're truly experiences that are worthwhile. And you want clarity. You want to be able to remember that you were doing those. And there's certain things, like the stuff that I like doing is a little bit dangerous, bro. You can't be drunk doing a lot of the things that I do to begin with, because it involves like, a lot of the fishing and hunting and stuff that we do in martial arts. You can't be drunk training with people full contact. You can't be drunk on the boat, on the water. You can, but it's dangerous if you're the operator or handling a firearm. That's stuff that's fun and exciting for me. Alcohol does not need to be a part of it whatsoever.
No doubt, man. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Mike. I mean, you talked a little bit about the realization that if it's not fun, that's probably why you're drinking. But were there any like little, I guess, tools that you picked up? I mean, being around people that are drinking, what did you have to tell yourself, or what did you learn through the process of not drinking to, like, not cave to the peer pressure, or not cave back to that thought of like, well, if I don't drink, I'm not going to have fun? Like, what were those steps there that got you to be, accept the fact that you just weren't going to drink in those situations anymore?
Well, I mean, sadly, part of it was just not doing some of those things. Just not going to certain social events where I know it's just going to be a shit show. And I don't know if I can cuss one here, but I'll limit it if I'm not allowed to. But if I know that it's just going to be for example, I play in a band. Like I hardly play at any shows at all, because I know people are going to be offering me shots and like it's going to be too much social pressure. I don't feel like explaining myself. One of the first social things that I did right after I quit drinking was I went to a UFC fight in DC. That was pretty hard, dude. That was like the first test of, can I be like at a sporting event or like a thing where there's going to be a lot of, everyone's going to be drinking but me. And then I just got into the pattern. It becomes a habit, just like drinking becomes a habit. You get used to drink, you got to think, when you were a little kid, you didn't need anything to have fun when you went and did stuff, and I believe that a return to that is necessary, and seeking out true adventure in life, and really just doing things that it's not required, man. It's really not a requirement or a prerequisite for the situation to be fun. And then just reminding myself of that night too, bro. Like, what does this look like if I have one beer? And being honest with myself and being like, okay, like, can you just drink 2 or 3 beers like the rest of your friends and be normal? Or are you going to be swinging from the chandeliers drinking 30 beers by the end of the night? And I just know myself, and I know that I can't hang with it. You know what I mean? And just a suggestion to anyone that's out there, the one resource that helped me a lot is a book called The Easy Way to Control Alcohol by Alan Carr. After reading that book, it opened a lot of, it opened my eyes to a lot of things, the way we view alcohol in our society, and kind of reprogrammed the way that I looked at things. And it was much easier to manage those social situations having those tools. And for some people, it's 12 steps and step work and going to the meetings, whatever avenue. You know, I have a lot of guys that when they're getting sober, they come and they use martial arts as their outlet and kind of the vehicle. Whatever vehicle there is, you need some sort of like anchor that reminds you why you're doing this.
No doubt, man. That vehicle, Mike, I was thinking about it. You mentioned, you said the word pattern, and I started thinking about like a routine. And the importance of what, a routine daily, from sun up to sundown, or from the time you wake up to the time you put your head on the pillow at night. You got to get yourself into a good routine, to your point, a good pattern, and create good habits. What are some of the routines and things that you do on a daily basis to keep you always on track, to make sure that, when that, whether it's a trigger or an event, whatever the case may be, that you can fence that thing off because you've got the mindset, right? And you got that routine and that pattern to keep pushing through it. What are some of the things that you do on a daily basis to keep you on that track?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So I'll just be honest. Like, I kind of set my schedule up in the past so I didn't have to do anything in the mornings. Most people, like in our business, like there might be a morning class here and there, but it's mostly evening, afternoon and evening training. So I could get away with being hungover, you know what I mean, and still fulfill my responsibilities at work, and like get away with kind of being hungover throughout the day. So one of the things I changed immediately is I started teaching in the morning every single day, so that it just wasn't like, and I think being on a team and having some accountability is really important, because like I'll let myself down a lot, but the prospect of like letting a team down or letting your family down and stuff like that really sucks, So I just kind of put myself in a position where, I have to be there. I'm the leader. There's no showing up all fucked up. I kind of tell everybody there what's going on, and that, this is why I'm doing it. And I just don't even have, like, dude, by the time the day's over now, I just don't have the energy to even think about drinking, because I'm doing so much output in other areas that it's not even a temptation or a thought or anything like that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and Mike, I'm glad you brought up that you have people come to your academy, because I was going to ask you, I would think martial arts would be a great, as you put it, anchor to help people through this stuff. So, obviously you have, but have you helped people, and what would you tell, someone that's maybe thinking about doing some martial arts to help them have something to do to take their mind off of this stuff? How would you tell them to find you and look you up and take action on that?
Yeah. Well, not only I would say that we've helped people. It's not just me. It's a team. We're a team. And just as much as I've helped them, they've helped me. I have a lot of students that have like 10, 15 years of sober time, and they're a good sounding board for, hey, how did you feel this challenge when it came up? And I think it's a good vehicle. I think you really have to do a lot of internal soul searching. I'm not going to be the answer for all your problems. I would be remiss if I were to claim that, oh yeah, come to me and you'll get sober, no doubt. But having a group of guys that are like consistently positive, and you're kind of struggling together, you're on the same path, you're being physical, you're mentally and physically challenging yourself. It's powerful, man. And we can tell when you're slipping up. You know what I mean? Like, I can smell when the guys have been drinking the night before, and I'm like, come on, dude. Like, is this really necessary? And listen, if that's what you want to do, I know. But when you tell me that you want some accountability, then I'm going to give it to you. And I expect the same. I'd be lying if I told you, oh yeah, I quit drinking, that was that. There were so many times where I was like, God, dude, if I could just drink today, man, like all my problems would just feel like they're gone. And I call one of those guys and be like, dude, I feel like drinking hard today, bro. Like, I feel like just going hard. And they're like, but where's that going to end? Where's that going to end, man? And who are you helping by doing that? And more importantly, who are you hurting by doing that?
Yeah. And Tom, I'm just going to jump in here real quick one more time, because you said something, man, staying positive. Like, man, how important is that positivity? Because as I was talking to you before we jumped on here, I realized I was smoking and drinking to cover up emotional stuff, and it was the depressing stuff and being negative about life. And it's not until you find that positiveness and the things to be happy about that you can actually start even considering to turn that corner. So, what is it about positivity and happiness and finding the simple things in life to make you happy again, like you said, like a kid, why is that so crucial in turning that corner and all this stuff?
Well, I mean, it's if you really look at your life and if you're watching this, you clearly care about yourself. You care about your own personal development. You care about your mind and your body. I mean, if not, I don't think anyone that doesn't care would watch this, or you have someone that you care about that maybe you're going to share this with. And I mean, I just see it in my own children. They find so much wonder in just like finding a turtle in the woods. And we lose that. We lose that over time. Our disconnection from nature and our disconnection from being social beings, our disconnection from our nature, which is, pretty cool. That the modern society just piles on so many things that I feel like we need to mask. And I think just a return to a natural state of being is a really, I really found a lot of clarity in my sober time too, just going out in the middle of the woods and fishing and hunting and just being alone in my thoughts and confronting my problems and my relationship problems. And like a big part of that was like guilt, dude, because I still carry around a tremendous amount of guilt from the neglect that my children had to suffer for me being a hungover asshole on weekends and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it kills me just thinking about it. And by anyone else's metrics, I probably would have been considered a good dad, but by my own standards and by my wife's standards, no way. And I don't want them to remember me as being the hungover, pissed off dude that's always drunk at their birthday parties and showing up with scars on his face at their sporting events. I want them to remember me as me.
Yeah, it's interesting, Mike. You said the word disconnect probably 3 or 4 times in a few sentences. And, with obviously in the world that we live in, people talk about the old saying about, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's a human connection. And so, of course, and, you said disconnect, like, and connection is so important. And I think about the controllables. Adam touched on it. You shared some around, the mindset and positivity. So when you hear it, every day almost, hey, just control those things you can control, right? Which it boils down to your attitude and, of course, your work ethic, what you put into it. But that connection piece, to me, that seems like a choice as well, right? Something you can control. Either I'm going to connect and immerse myself into something. Doesn't have to be another person, could be a situation, could be nature, or I'm going to choose to disconnect as well. So, as simple as it sounds, that connection piece, man, I mean, you've got, the connection to your family, connection to your work, connection to your friends, connection to nature. Like, just listening to you, like, it seems like that common denominator every day for you is so key, because if you start disconnecting in those areas, obviously you're very vulnerable, and, those things that once certainly put us into the deep dark hole could creep back in again. So, connection, man, so powerful every single day.
Absolutely, bro. And not only connection to others, but a connection to like your true self too. I tell people this all the time, like our ancestors up until pretty recently in human history struggled every day. You know, you had to find your own water. You had to fight off predators or enemies. So the stress that we felt was expelled instantly when that spear hits the deer, or you build your shelter, or you collect your whatever you're harvesting, or you literally chop wood, carry water, as they say, right? And good, bad, or indifferent, our society has just made things way too easy for survival. And the human brain and body are such complex entities that they need to be challenged. They need to be forced to do hard things, whether it's weightlifting. I don't care how you find it, bro. You could be through me, through kicking and punching and choking people, or it could be through lifting weights, it could be through riding dirt bikes, could be through shooting, it could be through yoga, which is a little bit less aggressive. It depends on who you are. But I believe that getting back into that natural state of physical, mental struggle, where it's something hard, the brain and the body have to concentrate on together because it's complicated. Because if you don't create struggle in your life, your brain will manufacture it. It'll make it up right away. And then the easiest way to kill that struggle is through drugs and alcohol. It just numbs it. It doesn't actually deal with anything. So by forcing yourself, I get asked all the time, like I'm damn near 40 in here getting killed by these dudes that are like in their physical prime, that have, that have like long careers ahead of them as fighters and stuff like that. It's like, man, why do you put yourself through that? Well, if I don't put myself through those things, or I don't go trudging through the mud to catch a fish, or I don't go trudging through the woods to kill an animal, my brain is going to create a problem way worse than all of this shit put together. And the way that I know that I'm going to deal with that is at the bottom of a bottle. And that's just unacceptable anymore. And I think that's important for people to realize, bro, manufacture your struggle on your own terms, dude. Don't let your brain do it for you. You're going to be a mess.
Man, I love that you said that, Mike. My brother, for lack of a better terms, like a life coach out in Los Angeles, and he gets
I met him before.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you did. So, but he deals with a lot of guys that come to him, and it's like, oh, life is horrible, and I'm depressed. And what's funny is these guys pay a lot of money not knowing that all these guys are doing are putting them in uncomfortable positions and situations to make them get out of it. Because, as you just mentioned, man, it's when you have nothing challenging you and you have nothing that excites you and nothing to look forward to, that's when your brain just starts going, okay, well, woe is me, my life's horrible, all these bad things are happening to me, which is, like you just said, it's a load of crap. And I know my life took off, man. One of my biggest fears was to run my own business. One of my biggest fears was to be responsible for myself. And the second luckily my lovely wife, same as you, kind of shook me. It was like, dude, you have to work for yourself. You have to take a chance on yourself. That's when all this haze of like, oh, I'm sad and, life is horrible. It instantly changed to like, wow, this stuff's actually pretty cool. And like you said, I don't need the drugs and alcohol to mask it all anymore. I have something to look forward to every day, and I have something to challenge me every day. And to me, man, I agree with you. That's where a lot of happiness is found in life, is that challenge and that mental. Like you said, man, we don't have to worry about our food anymore, and protecting. Everything's pretty easy. So it's too easy. Finding those challenges in life, man. I'm with you 100%. That's where you're going to find a lot of this mental clarity with all this stuff.
And to piggyback on that, something that you mentioned, like we've been trained to believe that alcohol enhances the experience of whatever it is you're doing. But what you'll find, and I'm sure, Tom, you can attest to this, man, once you have even just a little bit of sober time, 6-7 months, like simple stuff, like your food starts tasting better, and like water just tastes, breathing feels more, your sleep feels better. When you talk to someone, you actually are like listening to them, and when they're talking to you and they're not drunk and they're sober too, they're not just waiting for their turn to talk. They're actually listening. So it's a way more authentic experience, man. Alcohol is it's a toxin. First off, let's be real. We're one of the only beings that poison ourselves for fun. And again, it's fun till it's not. And I really do believe that it doesn't enhance anything. It really doesn't. You think it does, but it really doesn't.
It's everything you described there, Mike. Spot on, man. With my own personal experience, I tell you, the anxiety piece. We all heard, we all have heard. I'm dealing with the Sunday scaries, which party Friday, party Saturday. I gotta get ready for work on Monday, and those Sunday scaries kick in. Or people have the case of the Mondays, like all that goes away. Like you get to, the mindset now is like, bring on Monday, bring on every day that ends in Y.
Monday's my favorite day of the week, bro. Monday's my hardest training day of the week. And I set it up that way because I'm trying to manufacture my own struggle, bro. I get to be in control of my Monday, not Monday.
No. Oh yeah. Yeah. What's been, I was curious, Mike, like, if you had to put your finger on one of your, and it could be around starting Rising Tide Academy. It could be on, your journey to being alcohol free. It could be anything in life. Like, what would you say is one of your biggest failures? What did you learn from it? And what could you share with the audience? Like maybe it was something you could have done to mitigate it and it not happening at all, or just something, just a lesson that we can learn here around perhaps one of your biggest failures you've experienced.
Can you repeat that the last, because I had a call I had to deny and I couldn't hear the audio.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries, man. So just for the audience that are listening, like just curious. I mean, obviously, you're on a much better path, living a great life. No one's life is perfect, but obviously along the way, you've had some big moments where, you've experienced failure. We all do, multiple times over. I mean, it's just part of, growing up and being, a business owner and other things. Like, just want to say, understand what's been one of your biggest failures and, what did you learn from it? And what could perhaps the people listening to this learn from it as well?
I mean, like, without any doubt, the biggest failure is not being present focused for my family at the expense of alcohol. Look, man, you can fail in business and get your money back. You can fail at your health and get healthy in a couple of years. But those experiences with my kids, bro, I will never get back. I just won't get them back, bro. Like, I'm gonna try not to get too misty saying this, but there was a day that I was hungover and my daughter was probably 3 years old. And she asked me to go outside and build a snowman with her. And I told her I was too busy. Bullshit, bro. Lying to a 3-year-old. Just, she's not gonna understand. I'm too hungover. I don't really feel like dealing with you at the moment. That moment right there is like one of my top 5 regrets. And then again, the day with my son walking around, it's like one of his most important special days, bro. Not to mention the countless times I let my wife down, bro, or let my brother down, or my family, like, that regret cuts so deep, bro. And I just never want to feel that way again. And like, I would encourage all the young fathers out there that have young kids, dude, please do not go down that path. Like, get your shit together right away, because whether you realize it or what I always told myself is like, when they get older, then I'll cut this shit out. They don't even remember all this stuff, but I remember it. You know what I mean? And they are paying attention, and it's dude, it's painful, man. It's painful for me to talk about it now. I'll be honest. That's my biggest failure is the neglect of, and bro, when I'm talking about neglecting my kids, I'm not talking about I'll leave them in a closet with no food. You know what I mean? If you saw my kids, and again, like, my wife's so great that I could afford to do it because she's not going to let anything happen to them. But emotional neglect, I'm too tired, you know what I mean? Like, don't bug me type deal. Or drunk at your birthday party, or drunk at your, Thanksgiving dinner being drunk, or I missed Halloween one time because I was too busy working. You know what I mean? And I was working, but I had to have the clarity now that I didn't have back then. I've been like, dude, fuck this. This is not as important. How many Halloweens do you get with your kids, bro? Less than like 13 or 12. So that's one of them that's just gone. And I'll never get it back, dude. And yeah.
That's powerful, man. I didn't know what you were going to say there, obviously. And, just having a 15, soon to be 16-year-old daughter, freshman in high school, and thinking about, those times where you wake up in the morning hungover and, your kid is maybe going to an event with somebody else because you're too hungover to go.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there looking at your phone that afternoon when you're feeling a little bit better, looking at the picture on Facebook, and you weren't a part of it. Right. But you could have been.
Sucks, dude.
Right.
Sucks.
And it's like, those moments you can't get back. I mean, it's so true. You hear your parents tell it to you, say it to you as you're growing up, like, these times go by fast, live it up, enjoy it. Right. I mean, who wouldn't want to go back and enjoy high school again or college again? And, to see my daughter entering into the high school environment, trying to share that with her, but me being a part of that with her as well, because that day she walks across the stage and it's off to college and the nest, you fly out, it's just looking back on those pictures and memories again, and then see them a few times a year. So, being present with your kids, being there and not allowing those poor decisions to get in the way. When you put that in the category of, hey, Mike, what was your biggest failure that others listeners could learn from and listen to, the fathers out there? You guys still out there?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. All of a sudden it just kicked, my screen just went black, but hopefully you still saw me on there.
Good.
I was good.
Well,
and we could still see you. We could still see you.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. We'll keep rolling. Now, I just say, I guess, that message, Mike, hit me hard, man. But, just again, being a father, Adam now is a dad as well. And for everyone out there, it's going to be watching and listening, that you said it earlier, there's a reason why people are going to watch and listen to this. Yes, it's because they want to see Mike Stewart, share a message. They want to dial into Hoffa, be a part of it and support it. But, coming out of this thing in a few minutes, if there's one thing to take away, it's knowing that when you get through, right, that other side of from once maybe, pouring it on thick, because we've all been there, right? And certainly had that experience with alcohol, but man, this world, quote unquote, living your best life sober is a great place to be. And you get the clarity back, you get a lot of things back. But the love and the connection with your kids, your spouse, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, go right down the list, man. Nothing better.
Well, and I wanted to throw a curveball in here because, as Tom just said, Mike, I just had a kid. He's a month old. And I got, but this question is to both of you because, I look back at my early, late teens, early 20s. And of course, everyone tells you don't drink, don't drug, be sober, do all this stuff. But like, what keeps me up at night, man, is like, I plan on raising my kid to be an awesome kid, giving him everything I possibly can. But it's like when he hits that age, you can tell any kid till you're blue in the face, don't do something, but they're kids, right? I mean, you're right. I was told not to drink and drug, and yet I did it. So it's, man, especially you, Mike, like when you're working with a lot of kids at your dojo, like how can you get that message to land? Do you have any insight on like, I mean, obviously it's always up to the kid at the end of the day, but is there any insight on how you can really get a young kid to realize, man, you're going to have a way better life not doing this stuff? Because as you mentioned, the big word, man, regret. Some of the biggest regrets in my life are from my 20s, dude, when I was drinking and acting stupid. Some of the biggest regrets in my life are at that age. How can you stop someone or get through to someone at that age, that knows everything? Any ideas there?
That's a tough one. And I do deal with this from time to time. I think you just got to be real honest with them. And like, okay, like I think our generation, the way that we were taught about drugs and alcohol in school and from our parents probably led a lot of us to not take it seriously at all. I bet if they showed Requiem for a Dream in ninth grade instead of whatever bullshit DARE program they did, people probably wouldn't do heroin as often. And just telling kids like, look, you are gonna, these things exist, and not just, okay, don't do it. But what does that really mean? And you can try to use scare tactics. Well, you end up in jail, you end up in debt, you'll end up dead or in addicted or whatever. But kids think they're invincible, man. They can't see the end. They think they're going to live forever. So, they're not quite in touch with their mortality yet. So like that type of stuff just doesn't scare kids. I get arrested. It's not, like whatever. But what I would tell them is, you're going to be a much better version of yourself if you just knock this shit off. And take it from me. Like don't take it from like, not for nothing, but like your dork health teacher that doesn't know anything about drugs at all, or the DARE officer that like is just full of shit. Let's be real. Take it from someone that's been there, you know, like the version of me that never drank and just like took this shit real seriously and like became like a true athlete. Oh my God, bro. Like I'd be so much further ahead. But you know, I look at the experience as an opportunity though, to kind of help people that come my way that are struggling with this stuff, because, you know, I've kind of been there and I can help them. But at the end of the day, man, like for maybe less to the kids in that situation, but more to the parents, give them skills. When a person has like a solid set of skills and a lot to lose, I think they're less likely to throw it away. You know, a lot of the kids that I saw growing up, their parents like really neglected them, like didn't give a shit, you know. Those are the parents like, oh, it's cool, we can smoke weed in their house and smoke cigarettes, and their house is the party house, and it's cool, but it's you're not giving them skills and tools to like, but kids that got like really good grades in school and like you risk your future, or they were really good athletes, or they were really good at a music instrument or whatever, like losing that, the prospect of losing that due to drugs and alcohol, I think resonates more with kids. So I think building them up and giving them a lot to lose is the answer. And plus being in those communities, you know, they're going to have a positive outlet and not there's all of their social like all my social interaction in high school was partying.
Yeah.
You know, and I was on the wrestling team and everyone on the wrestling team partied. And then it was drinking on the weekends, and that was all my social interaction.
Well, and I also love what you said there about honesty, Mike, because one of my biggest things I realized, I have wonderful parents, fantastic parents, but as you kind of mentioned, it was, you know, Jesus wouldn't approve. We don't talk about drugs. It's like, you know, if I had been able to have an honest conversation about what drugs actually do and what, you know, like, I think the honesty part that you touched on, man, is crucial there. And I think every parent should be completely 100% honest and as you mentioned, real with their kid about what this stuff does, instead of just saying like Jesus wouldn't approve or we don't talk about drugs. You have to. And as I think John Shinholzer said, Tom, when we interviewed him, you have to tell these kids, look, as you even touched on, Mike, this stuff is going to be around you. Chances are you are going to try something. You just have to realize that at some point you cannot let it overtake your life.
I feel like the same way that parents are cautious and honest about their children with like strangers on the internet, be the same way with drugs and alcohol. Be like, hey, this shit's there, dude. It ain't going anywhere. And you're going to be exposed to it, you know? The question is like, okay, like my kids are old enough to understand that I'm sober now. And they're like, well, such and such, you know, like another member of the family was drinking wine or drinking a beer. I'm like, well, they don't have a problem with it though, you know? And here's the deal. You don't know if you're going to have a problem with it or not. So you're going to have to take that risk at some point. I can't do it for you, but I'm kind of with you too, Adam. In my house, I have great parents too, but you know, also a deeply religious household, which I'm grateful for in many ways, but in other ways it is very like, this is it. And like, you're going to drop the hammer on you if you get caught. I never felt like I could talk to them about any of that stuff because I was just scared. Whereas, you know, we all, and props to my parents. They did the best with the information that they had. We know a lot more about this stuff now. Like, dude, like, I'm not going to tell my kids, you better not ever drink at a party ever, or like, you're going to hell. Because we'd all be in hell. So that's dumb. And it's not productive. What's productive is, hey, listen, look, I know you're going to go to this party. There's going to be drugs there. Probably there could be alcohol there, but you have to take that risk, you know, and not, oh, if you see someone smoking a joint, run away and call the cops. No kid's going to do that, dude. No kid's going to do that. Or, but certain things are like non-negotiable. Like, dude, if I ever find out that you got in the car with someone drinking or you're drinking, like, I'm gonna bust your ass for that. Like, that's too far. Or if I find out you're snorting coke or something like that, like, there's going to be consequences for it. Because that kept me out of a lot of trouble, because I feel like this parenting style of just like, well, just let him figure it out. That's not the answer either. There has to be temperance with some structure and discipline, along with, you can talk to me about this stuff, and I'm going to be honest with you about marijuana, alcohol, cocaine, Oxycontin, Percocet, pills, Adderall. It's not just drugs. Like, it ain't like that, bro. It ain't like that. This is what Adderall does to you. This is why you should stay away from it. This is what Percocet does to you. This is why you should stay away from it. This is what marijuana does to you. This is why you should stay away from it. This is this thing. And these are kids we're talking about. No kid under the age of 18 until your brain, I think the brain fully stops developing like mid-20s for guys, and a little bit earlier for girls. I fried my brain. I mean, I did all types of shit in high school, dude. You name it, I tried it. And like, I mean, again, honesty, there'll be days when I walk into like the room to do something and I'm like, I have no idea why the fuck I'm here at all. And I'm sure it's the residual effect of all that stuff over time. And yeah, that's all. I'm rambling a little bit on this topic.
No.
I'll let you.
Mike, you know, it's interesting, man. Like, so you mentioned all those different things, because I'm in the same position where with you guys, where you've got to, you know, bring the awareness, educate, get people in there that have been in that situation before, because you don't want to have somebody preaching and teaching that really hasn't experienced that, right? And also you need to show them that it doesn't discriminate. You can't take your kids down the street and say, oh, that group of people right there, they're most likely the ones that would be doing drugs and drinking and this, that, and the other, you know? So it's like, you know, you got to show them that this shit can impact anyone. And once
some of the most, sorry to interrupt, but some of the most out of control, ridiculously belligerent people that I ever met and partied with lived in gated communities and went to private schools, bro. You're not getting away from this shit, man. There ain't no way.
Yeah.
Dude, I love that you brought that up, Mike, because again, I came from a religious household, and I used to tell my parents, we knew where to get the drugs. It was from the private Christian school kids. They had everything, because they had access to the funds. They had access to people that had it. You know, I just find it funny that you brought that up, because I used to say that a lot, because I was never, you know, my family, we did all right, but we were never well off. But man, you know, the private Christian school kids definitely knew how to party. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah.
You know, and hey, here's the deal. You guys know this. I call the old, you know, phone the remote control to our lives. You know, when we, you know, back in the day, going through high school and college, you know, certain people that we knew, we had to go, you know, reach out to them, connect with them, go meet them, do whatever. Now it's like, hey, are you on Snapchat? If you want to get Percocets, get them off Snapchat. Oh, by the way, everything we mentioned, you know, the Oxycontin, the Percocet, the weed, the cocaine, the list goes on. Guess what's inside of most of it now? Fentanyl, right? Guess what's flooding our country right now? Fentanyl. What my brother died from? Fentanyl, right? I mean, that stuff, one little granule, never forget when he passed away, Mike and Adam, you know, of course, we had all of his belongings from where he was staying at the time. And there was a small baggie with a gray substance in it. And we called the local sheriff's department that was doing, you know, the investigation. And the first question they asked was, did anybody get that substance on their skin? And the answer was no. And said, okay, we're coming over to take a look at it, because fentanyl, one little granule gets on your skin, and your bloodstream could kill you. Right. I mean, and this is the type of shit that we're dealing with. I mean, you know, right now you could go on Snapchat, right? I've heard the stories. You think you're getting Percocet, right? You may not have a problem, but you're partying and you're 15 or 16. You take that Percocet, you don't wake up the next morning and your parents are wondering what the hell happened. And it was laced with fentanyl. That's the reality of what's going on right now.
Yeah, I work with a lot of law enforcement, and the shit that they tell me, I mean, they're busting guys with pill presses, and they're manufacturing like thousands of these things, and it all has fentanyl in it.
Yeah. It's you know, and it's like the old hockey stick. I mean, that trend is just skyrocketing. Yeah. And, you know, we're still in the middle of, obviously, you know, the last couple of years, all the shit that we've been going through, you know, isolation, boredom, relapse, you know, I mean, of course, my family be on the front lines with a couple of funeral homes, people passing away at a rapid rate, you know, young, old, doesn't matter. I mean, you know, so, you know, it's, you know, I just hope that, you know, as we kind of come to a close in all this, that the folks watching and listening, obviously Mike shared a lot of good insight and knowledge, speaking from a wealth of experience. Mike, from, of course, just kind of growing up. By the way, side note, I love how you guys call the days right now are the good old days, and you're recording all that good content, man, because everyone always, the good old days, they look back, but man, we are absolutely in those good old days right now, and just want to plug it, man, because you guys put some good content out there around that. But anyway, man, a lot of good stuff today for sure from you. And I'm just so glad you're here, man. I know my brother loved you. I know you loved him. I know you guys made a shit ton of memories together that you'll never forget. And I know he's looking over us right now. He's probably on this damn thing watching us. Like, look at these two guys, go at it back and forth.
I'm start crying, bro.
Yeah, man. So it just feels good to have you on the podcast, brother.
Yeah. And I did love Jimmy, bro. And like, he's an example of, how do I say this? He was always, I didn't know he was struggling like that, bro. Like, the outside and how people look is never really, because when I told people I was struggling too, like, except people that were really close to me had really no idea. And like I know for guys like Jimmy and for everyone else, it seems like maybe help is out of reach, or it's too late, or people won't understand, or what have you. But and to kind of dovetail that what you said before, these are the good old days, guys. Like, these days right now, the moment you are living right now, these right now, my friends, these are the good old days. This is it, man. We're have a great opportunity right here. And it just makes me sad. I wish Jimmy could have gotten the help he wanted early. I know I know he'd be proud of what you guys are doing. And if this just affects one person and helps them, then it was, not all in vain. But yeah, man, I just, like, it's tough for me to talk about because Jimmy was such a great guy, you know what I mean? And toward the end, we weren't that close, but man, he would text me every day on my birthday. No one did that for me, you know what I mean? And just always uplifting and always positive, even while, like, in the midst of being, like, pretty badly addicted, it sounded like. Just a great guy, man. I don't know where I was really going with that. You just got me thinking about Jimmy.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's, like you said it, Mike, if the end of this is we help one person, they've got us, they've got you, they've got others in the community that are willing and able to, reach out and bring people along and show them there is a path, and show them that they can absolutely live a wonderful life and get connected with each other and get out. You said get out in nature, man. That's something I got to do more of, is just, get in the dirt, man, roll around, go have fun, be that kid again. Such a big opportunity. Adam, man, you get to live, obviously, and Mike too, still with younger kids. You got these holidays every year. When you go to Disney World, man, put those Mickey Mouse ears on and go do it up, man. So
yeah, definitely will. Well, guys, we're running up on time here. Mike, we certainly appreciate your time, man, your input. Fantastic stuff today, really. I think what you offered to the podcast was just fantastic today, Mike. So thanks again for your time. And for all of you out there listening, please, again, share with loved ones, share with elected officials. Let's get the word out there. Find out more at hoffafoundation.org. Of course, subscribe to our podcast. Find it on YouTube. Find it on Anchor and Spotify. But everyone out there, take care. Hold your loved ones close, and we'll catch you next time on The Sober Social.